everyone, welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be bringing you my July TBR, which is once again going to be chosen using a deck of cards. That was backwards. So first off, I would like to apologize for not posting a wrap-up for last month. Listen, life kind of got in the way of a lot of my reading intentions, so my reading kind of fell apart. I did post a video where I read 4 books and I read a handful of other things, but look, it was a mess. And then trying to film last week just didn't happen. So here we are in July and we're gonna move past. I am once again gonna use cards because I found that really fun last month. That being said, these are all the cards that I didn't read last month. These are the cards that I picked out last month that I didn't read the books for. So we're gonna put those back in the deck of cards and we're going to, you know, try and shuffle, although we learned last time that I can't shuffle. So I'm going to be picking 8 prompts or 8 cards. If you don't know what this is, I'm doing a terrible job explaining. It's been a while since I filmed something. So this is kind of known as deck of TBR, and what you do is you use a deck of cards and each card has a reading prompt assigned to it, and you pick out a certain number at the beginning of the month, and using the prompts that the cards have assigned to them, you pick out the books you read for the month. I explained it a lot better in last month's TBR, so I will leave that linked in the description below if you want to check it out. Otherwise, I'm sure you're familiar with the concept or you'll click on pretty quickly. It's not that hard. This is my prompt board. The ones with the X's on them are prompts that I have read. I don't want to be repeating the same prompts over and over and over again, so once I've completed a prompt, it gets removed from the deck and I can't pick it out again. However, if I picked out a prompt and didn't read it, it does get put back in because I want to read all the prompts. I also don't remember what any of my prompts are. So like, you're just gonna have to believe me that this is as random can be. I can't shuffle, so like that's also a thing. Who let me have a deck of cards? That was poor planning on their part. I'm gonna call that shuffled. So first card, I'm picking 8, but this is the first one. What is it? King of Hearts. What on earth is the prompt for this? A book published pre-2019. That's a very oddly specific prompt, isn't it? Okay, sure, that's fine. What's next? This is the 10 of Spades. A TBR veteran. So this means that I have to pick one of the first 50 books on my TBR. So this is trying to make me get into the backlog of my TBR a little bit more. And then we have 9 of Spades. My shuffling, ladies and gentlemen. This is for the prompt, read a book with a racially diverse main character. So by racially diverse, I specifically mean diverse from me. This could mean a lot of things. So the 4th prompt is... Oh no, I pulled this last month, didn't I? God damn it. This is a Jack of Hearts, a book from the scratch-off poster. Okay, I have 2 scratch-off posters that are like 100 books to read in a lifetime, or 100 books you should read. I have 2 of those. So this means I have to pick a book from one of those 2 posters and read it. Okay, fine. Fine. Number 5 is... Queen of Spades. An author on my TBR more than once. That means I have multiple unread books by this author. Alright, I can do that. Prompt number 6 is... Ace of Diamonds, which is the prompt. A new to you author. So an author that I haven't read before. I have many of those. Second to last prompt. What is it? Oh my god, it's She Who Must Not Be Named. 9 of Diamonds. A book with a person on the cover. That's not hard. I'm sure I can do that. So this is the last prompt. What is it? Be a good one. Be a good one. I can't see that. 4 of Hearts. The first book in a series. Do I even have that? Oh yeah, no, I do have that. Okay. Alright. I wasn't prepared for that to come up. I forgot that was even a prompt. Oh no, this is all gonna fall. So these are all my prompts, or my cards for my prompts that I have to pick out for this month. Right, well, I shall now go off camera and pick all the books for these prompts, and then I will come back and I'll tell you what I picked and what prompt it is for, and then I can start reading them because it's the 3rd of July and I haven't read anything. That's depressing. Okay, I'm back. I picked out all the books that I plan on reading throughout this month, and I almost managed to fit everything that I really wanted to read on this TBR. There is one book in particular that I really wanted to get to, and it just wouldn't match for any of these prompts. So I'm sad about that, and will probably read the book anyway, but otherwise we have selected the TBR for the month, and I'm gonna show you what I picked. The first prompt we picked out was The King of Hearts, and the prompt for that was a book published pre-2018. I read my prompt board wrong when I said 2019. It was 2018. I ended up going for Solitaire by Alice Oseman. I actually own all of Alice Oseman's books, and the only ones that I've read are the Heartstopper series. So I really want to read all of them. I have acquired them all recently. It's just been like a whole process of waiting for them all to arrive because I want to read them in publication order. So this is actually the first one, and it was originally published in, I think, 2014. Yes, originally published in 2014. This particular edition has been re-edited since. There's a little author's letter at the beginning from Alice written in 2020 saying that she's fortunate to have had the opportunity to go back and edit through some of the scenes, but I'm still counting this as pre-2018. I'm very excited to read this. I don't know what it's about. I did at one point, but the synopsis on this edition is very hopeless. It's the vaguest thing I've ever read. It tells me nothing. All I know is that this book is about Tori, my namesake, Tori Spring, who is Charlie's older sister in the Heartstopper series. This did come first, but this takes place at the same time as book 4 of the graphic novel series, according to the author's letter at the front that I read when I was trying to figure out when all these books came out. So, like, I kind of know some of what happens, but I also have no idea what happens to Tori in that time frame because the Heartstopper graphic novel series is not about Tori. She's just there. So I am very intrigued to read this. I love this cover. I love these editions that exist of Alice Oseman's books. I think they're all so, like, aesthetically pleasing. It's described on the front here as the catcher in the rye for the digital age, and I don't know what that means. The next prompt I picked out was The Ten of Spades, which was to read a TBR veteran, one of the oldest 50 books on my TBR, and I went with the third oldest book on my TBR, Grimm's Complete Fairy Tales by the Brothers Grimm. This might seem like a weird choice. It's very long, and it's a collection of essentially short stories because they're fairy tales. Historically, I'm not the biggest fan of anthologies, and this is also a big classic. It's gonna be harder to read. However, this is the book that's been on my TBR third longest overall. So it's been here a hot minute and I need to read it. I want to be able to put it next to my copy of Hans Christian Andersen tales. I've read all of those. I should be able to do this. I do want to read this. I want to know the original stories behind so many things that I love. I've actually started this in the past and I got this far in, which looks like nothing, but is actually 94 pages. So what does that tell you about this book? It is a beautiful book. Like, this is stunning. I don't know if it's real leather, but it's like a leather bound book. This is the Canterbury Classics version. I just think this book is gorgeous. I feel like this is something that I need to read in my life, and it's something that I want to read on my life. So I guess now is the month that I get through it. The next prompt I pulled was The Nine of Spades, which was to read a book with a racially diverse main character, and for that I ended up picking Once Upon a K-Prom by Kat Cho. I think this takes place in Korea. I could be wrong about that, but I'm pretty sure it does. I'm pretty sure this takes place in South Korea because this book follows a girl named Elena who has apparently always felt like a side character in her own life. But it's coming up to prom, hence the fun title, and she's not really that interested in it until lo and behold, but who should show up and ask her to the prom but her old childhood friend Robbie, because they made this promise to each other many years ago that they would go to prom together. However, he is a K-pop star now and they don't really talk anymore. Like, they've drifted apart when that happened, and she was not expecting him to come back into her life to ask her to the prom, but he did. So that's kind of the premise of this book, and I'm so here for it. It sounds so cute, and this cover is stunning, and also it has a freaking poster underneath the dust jacket. Something I've learned about my reading this year is that I really enjoy reading the dynamic of famous people, particularly famous musicians, particularly those in bands. I really enjoyed XOXO by Axio, which is about a girl who ends up involved with a boy in a K-pop group, and it's everything. And I also really enjoyed If This Gets Out by Sophie Gonzalez and Cale Dietrich, which is about two boys in a American boy band who become involved with each other. So I'm here for more of the boy band group dynamic, and this just sounds really, really cute, and I need to read it. It just sounds so fun. The next prompt I pulled was the Jack of Hearts. I pulled this thing last month, and so I didn't want to pick the same book, but the prompt was read a book from the scratch off poster. I actually have 2 scratch off posters, so I just, you know, looked at all of my options and picked the one that I wanted to read the most, which happened to be Noughts and Crosses by Mallory Blackman. This is on the 100 books bucket list scratch off poster that I have, so it's on one. But this is a book set in like a parallel version of the world, wherein I believe it was Africa who colonized the world as opposed to Europe, particularly England. So the power dynamic involved with race is flipped. People are referred to as noughts and crosses depending on their race or skin tone. I don't know which is which. All I know is that this is like an examination of racism and the social and political economic hierarchy that exists in the world. It's kind of like a Romeo and Juliet vibe where two people from the different groups fall in love, but everything is out to get them because they're not supposed to intermingle. This book did come out like a million years ago. It's from the early 2000s. I'm really intrigued to read this. I've heard so many things about it. It's a very critically acclaimed thing. The next prompt I pulled was the Queen of Spades, and this was the challenge. Read from an author who's on your TBR more than once. This is actually the first time I think I've done this all year. I could be wrong about that, but I try my hardest not to do this. But I'm repeating a book that was on last month's TBR. I hate doing that, but this is the next book in like a series, so I want to keep going in order, and I want to finish this series. Like, I want to get through it, so it's here again because I didn't get to it last month, but I do really, really want to read it. Reflection by Elizabeth Lim. I have 3 Elizabeth Lim books on my TBR, so I picked this book for this challenge. I've actually not read anything from this author before, but I want to read this. So this is a twisted take on the movie Mulan, the animated movie Mulan, and it says, what if Mulan had to travel to the underworld? So when Shang is wounded in battle, Mulan has to travel to the underworld in order to save him. That's the premise of this. I'm intrigued. I have enjoyed every book I have read for this collection so far, but all of them have been written by a different author so far, so this will be the first one by Elizabeth Lim, but I'm still excited. The next card I pulled was the Ace of Diamonds, and the prompt for this was a new to you author, so I ended up picking Not the Witch You Wed by April Asher. I've never read an April Asher book. I really want to read this. It's an adult romance book that is a like urban fantasy. Our main character is a witch who has no powers. We love it. And our main love interest is Lincoln, who is an alpha wolf shifter. They have a history. Shit hit the fan. It didn't end very well. But then there is this pressure on them to find their mates and become mated. The two of them are forced by arcane supernatural laws to find mates. So they agree to fake date their way into fake mating. That doesn't go well because Wynn does it and they start to develop feelings for each other again, and it's a whole thing, and I'm excited. I'm really, really excited. Flashback to me in high school and like right out of high school. I used to read werewolf stories on Wattpad. They weren't very good, but I've had a soft spot for stories with werewolves. And then this appeared in my life and I was just like, oh my god, I need it. I'm sure this will be a lot better than the things that I used to read on Wattpad. The next prompt I pulled was the 9 of Diamonds, which was the prompt, read a book with a person on the cover. And for this I was able to pick out the book that I want to make a video on, and that book is To Paradise by Hanya Yanagihara. Person. This is a person. I want to film a 24-hour reading vlog of this. I'm actually planning on doing that later on in this week because I'm currently isolating because my mum tested COVID positive. So I'm stuck in the house for like at least a week. So I have the time time right now to tackle this video concept. It's very long and I want to read it in 24 hours. We'll see how that goes. There are 3 timelines in this book. We have an alternate version of 1893 America, New York, which is part of the Free States, where people may live and love whomever they please, or so it seems. And then we also have 1993 Manhattan, besieged by the AIDS epidemic. And then we have 2093 in a world riven by plagues and governed by totalitarian rule. And so we have 3 characters that we follow, one in each of these time periods, and they have their own stories and their own backstories and their own circumstances. And I imagine this book is going to break me if it's anything like A Little Life, which is the other thing I've read by this author, but that's also one of my favorite books. I don't really know how to explain it to you guys because there's a lot of blurb. It says it's a bold, brilliant novel spanning 3 centuries and 3 different versions of the American experiment, tales of lovers, family loss, and the elusive promise of utopia. And I'm kind of here for that. And then the final prompt I have for this month was for the 4 of Hearts, and that prompt was the first book in a series. And so I have an excuse to read another book by a new favorite author for me, The Rules and Regulations for Mediating Myths and Magic by F.T. Lukens. That's a mouthful. I am so excited to read this. This is the first book in a series called The Rules, if Goodreads is to be believed. This is a fantasy novel, but unlike the other 2 books that I've read from this author, this is more urban kind of fantasy. Like, for the most part, this book is set in our world, but our character is introduced to fantastical things that just exist that people don't know about. Our character Bridger takes on a new job and he kind of looks past the weird parts of it, like entering through the roof. He can't ignore the weirdness anymore because he's pulled under the lake by a mermaid, also in front of his crush. So that's a thing. Then he discovers his eccentric employer is an intermediary between the human world and its myths. He has to help his boss keep the real world from finding the world of myths. And that sounds fun. It's a very short book. I'm very excited to read this though. I've really thoroughly enjoyed the other 2 books I've read by this author, so I want to read everything they've ever written. So that is everything I plan on reading this month. But yes, I hope you enjoyed this. If you've read any of these books, please let me know what you thought of them in the comments down below, or if you have any recommendations for me or any videos you want to see. I'm always eager to hear from you guys and to get any feedback. I really like talking to you guys and I feel like it doesn't happen very often. But yes, I hope you enjoyed this video. Leave a like if you did and subscribe if you want to see more from me. I do post videos every week. I hope to see you guys next time in a new video, and until then, bye. Have a good reading month. Read lots of good stuff.